today's fast-moving world, thriving teams and ethical leadership are essential to business success. So how do entrepreneurs build spaces where people flourish while scaling up? At Elevate One Consulting, Dr. Erica Garcia-Thomas and Eddy Paul Thomas are helping organizations grow with purpose. Blending evidence-based strategies, interactive training, and dynamic speaking, they equip leaders to boost engagement, transform culture, and drive results. From executive advising to brand revitalization, Elevate One delivers solutions that help your business do more than survive. It thrives. Visit elevateoneconsulting.com to get started. Elevate One Consulting. Innovate, grow, elevate. What if the clarity you've been searching for isn't out there, but already within you? I'm Eddy Paul Thomas, life and leadership coach. I work with purpose-driven people who are ready to lead boldly, live intentionally, and grow from the inside out. Whether you're at a crossroads or leveling up, coaching can help you move with confidence, wisdom, and impact. This is your time. Visit eddypaulthomas.com to get started. Imagine a place where the untold stories of Black missionaries are amplified, honored, and celebrated. A place that bridges the legacy of the people of the way with the powerful missions work of today's African diaspora. Welcome to the Black Missions Museum, a digital project dedicated to preserving the voices, culture, and legacy of Black missionaries across the globe. But we need your help to bring this vision to life. Your support makes a difference. Join us in this mission by donating today. Just click the link in the show notes to give and be a part of history. Together, we can inspire future generations and keep the legacy alive. Welcome back to E1 at Work with Eddy and Erica, your quick dive into transformational leadership and business growth. We are here today, Erica, talking about mentorship. In particular, just in terms of your experience and my experience with, what really makes a good mentor. We've all had individuals who have guided us at work, and sometimes it didn't work out so well. The advice was not so good. And there are those who have given us some great advice at work. And I'd love to kind of lay out what you and I think would be best for individuals when it comes to either becoming a good mentor, or if you're looking for a good mentor, what makes up that good mentor?
Well, first, I believe mentors are part of our nurturing that we need at work. And so if someone has not experienced good, authentic mentorship, they don't know how to give it. And so many of the individuals who have mentored me and it hasn't worked out at work maybe didn't know how to mentor. So I'm really glad we're talking about this today. I think it applies to every area of our life, but this podcast, we focus on work and how to bring our best selves to work. And I think being able to really partner with a mentor and accelerate the learning that you experience on the job is so important. And I think that happens through sharing projects and notes and feedback and resources.
Yeah.
And I think it comes from an organizational culture of we instead of me. So one where we're not just focused on ourselves and getting ahead individually, but one where we are rewarded through teamwork and organizational health. I think that's important.
Yeah.
So,
I think
that's what I think. I don't about mentoring in general.
Yeah, I think for me it's key for anyone who is new, not necessarily new to the organization or young per se, but new to their role maybe. If you are new to a role, you're on the front lines. Maybe you're new to your role in management.
Mm.
Maybe you've worked for years and finally you're in the C-suite. And it doesn't stop there. You don't stop growing as a senior level manager. The C-suite is where there's a lot of trauma there.
Yeah, there is.
So having someone that you can rely on as a mentor
Yeah.
is incredibly important. And
Yeah. I agree completely. And when you're in the C-suite, sometimes your mentor is in the C-suite elsewhere,
yeah,
not at the same place of employment.
yeah,
And I think that can be really helpful to
yeah.
have a peer and a mentor who's in a similar demanding role, but
Mhm.
not within your organizational context.
I think that's so relevant because I know that when we talk to a lot of different individuals, whether it be in for profit or nonprofit, when people let down their guard and kind of put their title at the door so that they can be coached and mentored. Some of the things that I'm learning is that they've learned a lot from their buddy who's in nonprofit, even though they're in for profit. And
Mm,
sometimes the person who's in nonprofit learned a lot. Maybe I'm saying that backwards. For profit can learn from nonprofit leaders, and nonprofit leaders have learned from for profit leaders on a consistent basis. And this is for the last 10 years or so of being involved with leadership roles. Um, there's so many things that are just universal about leadership in general that when you think about the key elements of being a mentor, um, they are universal. So I'll start naming off some of those things that I've found personally, as well as working with our clients. What works best
mm.
for those who are in the mentor role?
So tell me this. So what's the difference then between mentoring, coaching, therapy, and consulting?
Wow.
Because we all define mentorship differently, but it sounds like coaching can be mentoring in some ways.
I believe that what you're looking at is some elements that seem very similar, but they
Mm,
are different.
they are.
Um, Mentoring is typically development and relationship oriented,
Mm.
whereas coaching is more performance and goal oriented.
Okay.
So
Makes sense.
yeah, so mentoring, those are individuals who they may be your quote boss or leader in the organization, but they don't necessarily have to be.
And you're
Um,
not getting them to hold you accountable to reaching goals and growing as a human. Okay.
no, I mean there's a focus on long term growth as a person
Right.
or as an employee for sure.
Right.
But those are typically individuals who aren't going to hold your feet to the fire. They're just there to kind of guide you, and if you're a Star Wars nerd like me, they're your Yoda. They give you they ask you questions, and sometimes the answers seem, a little weird when you ask the question, but it, eventually makes sense. But for coaching, it's more they're helping you develop those skills, those specific skills or behaviors, and help you reach a specific set of results,
Mhm.
within a certain frame. So I
Okay.
would say those are the major differences for us
And then
when we
therapy,
coach.
though, think about sorry to cut you off. Go
Oh
ahead.
no, you're fine. You're fine. I think that the other part of this, um, is when you look at therapy, therapy starts from the past. Um, you're overcoming things from the past that are impacting you currently. Coach is not going to do that. They're
Mhm.
forward focused, whereas therapy really relies on going back.
Be more trauma focused or more psychological issues in a therapeutic environment.
Yeah, yeah,
That
exactly.
makes
And
sense. That seems very different than mentoring and coaching to me.
yeah,
Uh, and then consulting, when people hire us for specific problems. So I
hmm
need a digital strategy or I need to solve this problem. Can you do
hmm
that? That's
or
more the consulting lens, right?
yeah, absolutely. And then you have those individuals who are entrepreneurs. Hey, I've got a great idea. How do I scale this? How do I put this
That's
business
consulting.
together? Those are very different things.
It's
Um,
interesting though, because in my consulting work, I've been asked to coach.
mhm,
So I remember a client we had for a digital strategy and they loved
yeah.
it so much. And the leader of that organization was like, "Can you do coaching and accountability with me?" And I was
Mhm,
like, "Of course I can."
yeah. Yeah.
And I held her accountable to her goals each week. We had a phone call on a Monday, talked about
Mhm.
she brought 25 things to the table of goals for the week. We took that, we narrowed it down to 3,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Friday, I texted her and just to see what she had done, right? And
Mhm.
reflected on that on a Monday. Well, that's coaching. That's not necessarily consulting, but
Mhm.
there can be overlap.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So for me, Erica, I think the absolute number one thing that a good mentor does is they listen deeply without judgment. And that seems a little odd, but just let me unpack it for you a little bit here. Um, a good mentor doesn't just provide you with advice, they actually create psychological safety. And one of the things that I talk about in my book, The Conscious Shift, is the need for active listening. Where a person takes a pause, they're listening to what you say, but they also can be able to reflect back what they're hearing from you. They take the time to really unpack and ask clarifying questions if things seem a little like nuanced. So they use phrases like, "So I hear you saying blah, blah, blah," or "Tell me more about this part because I want to make sure that I'm clear on what you're trying to tell me." Um, and, in terms of what happens when you have a mentor who is an active listener, a really good listener, the Journal of Applied Psychology stated in one of their studies that mentees who feel more heard demonstrate higher confidence, self-efficacy, goal attainment. It's just wild how crazy someone's response can be as an employee when they feel heard. You feel seen. You're not just another cog in the wheel. You feel like a human being doing a task as opposed to, a robot doing a task.
Yeah, I agree with that. For me, I've been in mentor programs before. I don't know if you've ever done this, but in college, I was matched with a mentor,
Hmm.
and it didn't work out. So I did it again,
Okay.
and it didn't work out. And I started to think there's something wrong with me because my mentoring
Hmm.
matching wasn't working. But for me, I have found now looking back, so that was in my 20s, right? I'm in my 40s. So when I look back 20 years, I see that for me, mentoring has been an organic approach. And
Hmm.
I am drawn to my ideal mentor. I am drawn to strong, authentic, diverse women
Mm,
who lead in ways that resonate so deeply with me
yeah.
that I
Yeah.
want to emulate and or know them. And it's not about putting someone up on a pedestal. It's about connecting in ways that clearly they are ahead of me in the journey, but we're on the
Mm,
same journey.
yeah. Yeah.
And those mentors, and they've all happened through work, have been phenomenal and have been in my life for over 20 years now.
Mm,
So I was in these programs. It didn't work for me. Thought something was wrong with me. Realized, oh, look, here are these people I work with who are just
mhm.
amazing. And I stay in touch with them as I go from job to job in my 30s, right? And
Yeah.
here we
Yeah.
are. And they're some of my just most loved friends in the world. And they're my mentors. They're
Yeah.
ahead of And there are times when my friends have become my mentors.
That's amazing when you have that opportunity. I know that there are some environments where people don't have that opportunity,
Oh,
that are
yeah. I
a
know.
little a little more cutthroat.
Yeah,
You and I both had our conversations about places where people felt literally so intimidated by you just doing a good job,
right.
that mentorship was really hard to come by. Um, and I think that kind of goes to um, my next item for, what would qualify a good mentor.
Mhm.
Um, for me, as I think about, the good ones and the bad ones that I've had, they've shared wisdom, not just information.
Mm,
For me, strong mentors share their experiences, the good and bad, the
mhm,
triumphs and the failures, in ways that translate from me into actionable learning. Um, and you'll hear it from me on a regular basis. I know people around this house, and most of our clients hear it from me on a regular basis. But I have a real focus on storytelling and pattern recognition, so that it helps people to kind of connect, some of the dots when it comes to the information that I'm sharing with them, because it's very similar to what we do for our kiddos.
mhm.
When we see the car coming down the street and they're running out into the street to get a ball, we're like, nope. We know how that story ends. Wait here, let the car pass, then you can get the ball. But we've had enough experience in our lives that we can share and let people know when we see something coming.
Mhm,
In work, I can see when, it's not a good day to go talk to your boss about that.
mhm.
It's not a good idea to interrupt, an individual to share an idea now.
Yeah.
Um,
And
you
that's
know,
been key in higher education as well. Just knowing
hmm
how to navigate that as junior faculty and
Oh, yeah.
have that space. I would not be able to do it without my mentors.
hmm
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
And in the business world, I think about how natural it is when you have been mentored by someone healthy and responsible and psychologically safe
hmm
and wise. You just have this desire to pay it forward and
Yeah.
do it
Yeah.
for someone else.
hmm
And whether that's right away or down the road, there's a reciprocal nature of this.
hmm Yeah.
And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I think it's natural. I think it's a part of our DNA. Um, and it feels weird in cultures, work cultures, where we can't do that.
Mm,
We don't have that opportunity. It feels unnatural to
mhm.
not be able to do something that comes so naturally to us as human beings.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, I think if I'm thinking along the lines of another key that I would say would, something that would really make a good mentor, um, would be, at least for me in my past, the ones that have worked for me and the feedback that I've gotten from those who I coach, um, is when I challenge and encourage in pretty much equal measure. I'm able to find some sort of balance between supporting them and also holding them accountable, as a coach. And so I I've found my biggest growth when that's happened for me. Does that resonate with you at all?
It does. I actually think about when you coach me. I'm your wife. So, I actually need like 3 times more encouragement than I need challenged. So I'd
Mm,
say, a fourth of the time you're challenging me. Um, but that does resonate with me.
yeah, yeah. I think it's one of those things where, as you are, we'll go back to the very first point that I made, which was, the active listening part.
Mhm.
Having the emotional intelligence to be able to read the room with the person that's sharing that space with you,
Mhm.
you'll figure out if there's someone who needs more encouragement than challenging, or there's someone who really needs to be challenged,
Mhm.
and supported, much less so. But yeah, I think there's a lot of ways in which we can help others grow through um, doing both. You know,
So, how do you find a mentor? Do you just walk up to someone and be like, "Hey, will you mentor me?" Is that like weird?
I don't think it's as weird as you think. That I mean, people tend to, and our audience. I'll just kind of lay this out. Our audience, generally speaking, I won't say it's always, but generally, our audience, the people who seek out our counsel, are individuals who have been through college, and are working in some sort of either corporate or nonprofit or ministry environment. Um, Everyone who's achieved that level has been through socialization, through high school, through college, of of some level, and are now in a work environment where they're trying to navigate how to communicate and
Mhm.
work. So I think that, um, you know being able to find someone to be that mentor for you
Mhm.
really comes in how you approach them.
Mm.
If you come humbly, say, "Hey, you really seem to have it all together, and I know that you're not perfect, but I would love if we could, maybe once a month, go get a coffee and just talk through, some strategies or ways in which I could grow in this company. You just seem like you've been through some wars and know how to get things done, and I'd like to learn from you." So essentially approaching them humbly, uh, letting them know that you admire some aspect of their leadership or how they carry themselves, and letting them know that you would like to learn from them, is genuinely positive. I can't say it's going to work for every situation, but yeah, if it's weird, then it's it's probably, poor timing. You don't just in the middle of a quarterly report just, you know, "Hey, Bob, would you
Right.
mentor me?"
Well, and
But just
I think it's important to say that mentoring doesn't have to be you don't have to be hyper connected. Like,
yeah.
you don't have to meet officially and talk officially, and, like, sometimes being a mentor is just, like, sending a text every couple weeks or something. I mean,
Hmm.
it can
Yeah.
be just being available for a conversation when
Yeah.
needed. So
Yeah.
I think sometimes people are like, "Oh, we need to, like, establish something formal." I mean, if that's, like, what you need to do at work,
Yeah.
for work, I get that. But, Yeah, I've never needed that. Mine's more been, you know, reaching out, "Hey, do you have time for a call?" And doing that every couple
Hmm.
months or once a month, you know?
Yeah.
And there's
Yeah.
seasons where you may not talk to mentors as much, and then there's other seasons where you do.
Yeah.
So,
And there's some scenarios where if you're lucky, that mentor is in the same department and you get to interact with them on a regular basis and you're learning without even really having that
yeah,
conversation.
that's awesome. That's
Um,
ideal.
that is super ideal, but at the same time, um, the concept of someone being a mentor is intentional. It's not accidental. It's not, I'm just going to glean what I can from this person. It's usually you taking a moment to reach out. Um, and I'd love to go back to something you said earlier, and expand on it just a little bit. The mentors that really attracted your eye,
Mhm.
um, mostly modeled integrity and continuous learning.
Yes.
And I'd love to hear from you just kind of what that meant to you. Like, why was that important to you?
So, I don't know if anyone has done the Enneagram or not. I know it's, um, some people love it, some people have no idea about it, don't like it. I am what they call an achiever on the Enneagram. I am a 3 with a 2 wing, if you are Enneagram speak. But what that means is I am obsessed with learning and I am drawn to people who are obsessed with learning.
Yeah.
And one of the coolest things that my mentors have done is share resources. So, like when they go and they get a credential, or they go and get a certification, or listen to a webinar, they share it with me.
Mm. Yeah.
That alone has been such a phenomenal way for me to feel connected to them, thought
Yeah.
of, valued, but also I'm learning.
Yeah.
And that's just how I'm wired. That's just who I am. And for them to recognize who I am and fuel what I need, which
Hmm.
is probably different than someone else they mentor who needs something completely different, maybe.
Yeah.
Uh, that has been really phenomenal for me. How about for you?
You know, it's interesting. The modeling integrity thing is really core to me. Justice is huge for me.
Yeah, justice.
The concept that someone can have integrity, doesn't always mean that they do what I want them to do. One of the hardest conversations, I'll give an example here. Again, here's me with the storytelling. Um, one of the hardest scenarios for me from a mentor, um, was when I was working years ago in ministry. And we had a very candid conversation about what was going on in 2020. During George Floyd and the riots, and um, there were two parts to this, because it wasn't just riots. There were also those who were peacefully protesting. And I asked, the organization came to me specifically and asked about, how do we approach this, um, because we see what's going on and we want to say something, better than thoughts and prayers. And we had a very, very deep conversation about what it looks like to truly embrace DEI BA.
Mm.
The DEI, everyone knows
What is
because of
DA?
what it's been politicized as, but diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility, and belonging are the other two, the A and B, accessibility and belonging. How do we do this in a way that is honoring to God? And so after a lot of deep conversations, um, we went down this checklist of all the things that they agreed with, as C-suite individuals, and then we got to the last two, and because it had to do with being accountable for practices around race and accessibility, they said, I'm going to tell you why we support what you're saying, but we can't as an organization do it. And the honest to God answer they gave was because we are heavily reliant on funding from donors who would not approve of this.
Mm.
And I could not tell you how disappointed I was in that moment about a reality that they were living in. It didn't make me proud of them, but I could respect that they said, hey, we're going to be really honest with you. We're not going to just throw out platitudes. We're not just going to do this or that. One of these individuals I considered a mentor said, doing this puts our employees at risk because we rely on all of these, donations from, donors who don't believe that. And so how do we measure dealing with letting employees know that we took a stand and now we're losing a quarter of our employees because we don't have these big donors anymore? Even though we're doing good work, how do we do that? How do we balance that? And so for me, that was one of the moments where I could truly respect someone for what for me shouldn't have been a hard decision, but also being able to understand why it was for them. So being able to have hard, honest conversations is one of the things that I look for in my mentors. The integrity in those conversations, because it would have been just as easy for them to say, "Oh yeah, we're going to follow through on all these things," and string me along for
And not
5 to
do it.
10 years and never do it.
Well, and
But
hopefully that leader was able to find a coach who could walk them through the ethics of that
yeah,
and how to not only message that to donors, but to
yeah.
employees as well, regardless of what they could and couldn't do, but at
Mhm.
least acknowledging it in that way. So
Well,
that's a great example.
it was a really good example of the integrity part, but it also, just to finish up the story, the continuous learning. One thing that this organization did was they went ahead and developed a committee around this and began bringing in internationals to be on the board. They brought in people of color, women. They brought in someone specifically to address accessibility as well, to say, hey, we may not be able to make a big speech to the world, but we can certainly do things internally that reflect our values and hopefully have a ripple effect from there. And there's a million different ways you could slice it up and say, was it effective? Was it ineffective? I appreciate effort. There's no such thing as perfection in business, but I certainly appreciated their effort in trying to wrap their head around something that they really haven't had to deal with.
I think that's amazing that they did that and the effort that went into that of establishing that group.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's
Yeah.
phenomenal.
So for you, what would be your call to elevation today for folks when it comes to um, finding or becoming a mentor?
I think maybe considering it to be more organic in nature
Mm-hmm.
than official.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps there's someone at a different company or in a different field or in a different context that could be a good mentor for you,
Yeah.
potentially asking them or um, testing the waters to see if they have the margin for it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that takes a lot of vulnerability to step out and
Mm.
ask someone to be a mentor to you.
Yeah,
It's a lot
it
easier to
does.
just have mentors, right?
Yeah.
Um, if it's a boss, that's a natural mentor. I have a natural mentor in my boss right now, and she's phenomenal in every way. And I learn from her every single day. That's a gift I haven't always
Yeah.
had at work. And so I think looking around your life and finding inspiration and people that you resonate with and asking for that support.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, my call to elevation is this. For anyone who is out there who finds themselves in a place in which you would consider yourself successful, okay? I want us all to remember that there is literally no such thing as a self-made man or woman.
Mm.
There is someone who has either taught you, raised you, opened a door for you, giving you an opportunity that would not have otherwise led to your success. Yes, you may have had a work ethic and an idea, or the resources to figure something out that no one else has ever been able to do. But that doesn't exist without having the opportunity that someone gave you along the way. And so when you consider that, um, I would love for you to consider what it would mean for you to be a mentor to someone, to set aside just a little bit of time. We're not talking about hours per day, but just setting aside some time to help the next generation, someone who is obviously younger than you, less experienced than you, and help them along the way, so that this next generation has some solid direction from someone who's been there before.
I love that. And I love that you're calling people to initiate with mentees.
Yeah.
And I think that that is a phenomenal thing. And especially in our culture of, having a big family. And I've seen
Hmm.
you do this with cousins all the time. You have a zillion of them. You don't do it with all of them, but handful of them, I would say. Just being that, you know, older example. And I think that that is a ethical thing to give
Hmm.
back, a servant leadership thing to give back, an
Yeah.
authentic leadership thing to give back. And just, it's just right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's totally natural. Um, I think it's totally natural, and I hope that we start to see more mentors,
Yeah.
especially now. I think more people could use it in
I agree.
such tumultuous times. Well, thank you for joining us today in the space. We hope something resonated with you and can help you begin your personal elevation. We'll see you at work. Say Something Studios.